The kids walking past Dave seemed to be in some other universe. They moved too quickly. They were too animated. They talked too loudly. They held on to their backpacks too tightly, checked themselves in tiny mirrors hanging on the inside of their lockers too often, acted as if everything mattered too much. Dave knew the truth. Nothing mattered. Nothing but the fact that when school was out for the day, he and Julia were going to spend the afternoon at Morro Bay. No one had told him that March of senior year would feel like it was made of jello. After he'd received his acceptance letter from UCLA, high school had morphed into something he could basically see through. When, 2 days later, Julia received her congratulations from UCSB, only an hour up the coastline, the whole world took on brighter notes, like the simple primary colors of jello flavors. They giggled constantly. Julia's head appeared by his side, leaning against the locker next to his. It was strange how he could see her every day and still be surprised by how he felt to have her near. She knocked her head against the locker softly and combed her hair behind her ear. It's like time has ceased to advance. I swear, I've been in Maroney's class for a decade. I can't believe it's only lunch. There is nothing in here I care about, Dave announced into his locker. He reached into a crumpled heap of papers on top of a history textbook he hadn't pulled out in weeks and grabbed a single ripped page. Apparently I got a C on an art assignment last year. He showed the drawing to Julia. A single palm tree growing out of a tiny half-moon of an island in the middle of a turquoise ocean. Don't show UCLA that. They'll pull your scholarship. Dave crumpled the paper into a ball and tossed it at a nearby garbage can. It careened off the edge and rolled back to his feet. He picked it up and shoved it back into the locker. Any notable Maroney moments today? I can't even remember, Julia said, moving aside to make room for Dave's locker neighbor. The whole day has barely registered. She put her head on Dave's shoulder and let out a sigh. I think he ate a piece of chalk. It was pleasant torture how casually she could touch him. Dave kept exploring the wasteland of his locker, tossing out a moldy, half-eaten bagel, occasionally unfolding a sheet of paper with mild curiosity, trying not to move too much so that Julia wouldn't either. He made a pile of papers to throw out, and a much smaller one of things to keep. So far, the small pile contained 2 in-class notes from Julia and a short story he'd read in AP English. Still on for the harbor today? It's the only thing that's kept me sane, Julia said, pulling away. Come on! Why are we still here? I'm starving. Maroney didn't offer me any of his chalk. I don't care about any of this, Dave repeated. Liberated by the absence of her touch, he walked over to the trash can and dragged it toward his locker, then proceeded to shovel in the entirety of the contents except for the books. A USB memory stick was wrapped inside a candy wrapper, covered in chocolate, and he tossed that too. A few sheets remained tucked into the corners, some ripped pieces stuck under the heavy history textbook. But something caught his eye. One paper folded so neatly that for a second he thought it may have been a note he'd saved from his mom. She died when he was 9, and though he'd learned to live with that, he still treated the things she left behind like relics. But when he unfolded the sheet and realized what he was holding, a smile spread his lips. Dave's eyes went down the list to number 8. Never pine silently after someone for the entirety of high school. He looked at Julia, recalling the day they'd made the list, suddenly flushed with warmth at the thought that nothing had come between them in 4 years. She was holding on to her backpack straps, starting to get impatient. Everything about Julia was beautiful to him, but it was the side of her face that he loved the most. The slope of her neck, the slight jut of her chin, how the blue in her eyes popped. Her ears, which were the cutest ears on the planet, or maybe the only cute ones ever crafted,